I want to talk about the creator's intent for gaming, and specifically let's focus on HDR picture quality. What is the state of affairs when it comes to HDR gaming today on the PC? That's the platform that I use, but I have a good idea what's going on with the consoles too. And I want to be serious about this topic because I really respect anyone who knows how to calibrate the TV. And I am not planning to become a professional TV calibrator anytime soon. But yeah, I see myself in the future getting some equipment and learning how to mess around with calibration. And even I do not discard the idea of getting ISF certified, okay? Because, you know, I am an engineer in telecommunications and electronics, black belt in karate, I train tennis with the national team, I play classical guitar, so I do many things, and that would just be another, you know? So that's just the way I am. I like to learn things, and it would be really cool. But right now, I've been sharing with you many tricks and settings and change this and that, and I'm surprised to see that once in a while somebody brings this up. Hey, I want to respect the creator's intent. Right now, tell me, how many good HDR games have you played? I'm talking about, you open the game, you have one of these LG OLEDs. You open the game, you have HGIG. The game supports the system level calibration, or it has sliders. You just quickly have to tweak the peak brightness slider. How many games have you experienced on HDR that they look absolutely amazing, like just fantastic? Tell me, how many games have you played with native HDR that they are just perfect, absolutely amazing? I am all ears, because right now I can tell you Returnal, absolutely amazing HDR. The latest Witcher remake or remaster, it has a great HDR implementation that supports the system level calibration on the PC, okay? Not on the consoles. And Far Cry 6, it looks great, but the in-game sliders are broken. So you set it to 800 and it's not gonna give you a max CLL of 800. So the in-game sliders are broken. So if you don't know how to check that, I cannot count Far Cry 6 as a great HDR game. So right now I am struggling to bring up some good HDR games, and I have 5,000 gigabytes of games, okay, on my PC. 5,000 gigabytes right now installed and ready to open, and I am struggling to tell you, to list for you some good HDR games. Elden Ring is another good one. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the same HDR implementation. I remember The Division 2 was very good, but it has the black level race, so you need to lower fine-tune dark areas to -5, so we cannot count that. You need to fix black level race. So if you have to fix black level race, that's not a good HDR game, because that's an HDR implementation that looks washed out, okay? So if the in-game sliders don't work, like for example in Spider-Man, you change the in-game slider to 800, you are not getting a max CLL of 800 or 797. You need to increase it more. It's like to 1300, so you can get that 797. On top of that, it has the black level race. So yeah, it looks great after you fix the settings, okay? But what creator's intent are you talking about when the games look washed out because they have this black level race for whatever reason? I've tried to explain why I believe that's the case, but for whatever reason, as a consumer, as a gamer, I don't care why the game doesn't work. I don't care why the game is stuttering. Okay, if it's traversal stuttering or shader compilation stuttering or this or that, I care, but I shouldn't care about that. I'm a consumer, okay? I just want to open the game, play it, and they should look fantastic. Look and run fantastic, okay? So Right now, HDR Gaming is a mess. So what creator's intent are you talking about? I do not want, actually I will not call out anyone, okay? And I never discuss anything with anyone on the comments. If you disagree with me, that's okay. You can disagree with me, but I'm never going to discuss with someone and tell you you're wrong. None of that. And I'm not going to call out anyone. But there are a lot of comparisons. People comparing one display with another display for gaming, for example, to see which display is better. And I've seen comparisons with games that have broken HDR, okay? And some people don't notice that, okay? And that's fine. Sometimes when you don't notice something that is wrong, it might be a blessing, because you might think that everything looks fantastic. Maybe you're hearing this video, maybe, and you think, man, what is this guy talking about? I just bought my OLED and everything looks fantastic. If that's you, God bless you. Enjoy. Okay? Enjoy. But myself, the way I see things when they are not working, I just don't see things working at all. And I have to become basically a master to get all the settings tweaked to get the picture that I want. I'm not talking about the picture that I am getting is accurate, okay? I never say that. On any of my videos, I tell you, oh, this is accurate, okay? But let me tell you, for example, in this game, Returnal, which has, in my opinion, a flawless HDR implementation. On this game, I strongly recommend you to use the HDR. On Windows 11, it supports the system level calibration, that HDR calibration app. It doesn't have any black level rays, so all you have to do is just use HDRG on your LG OLED and it looks phenomenal. It looks fantastic. Now, if I turn off HDR and I use the SDR HDR trick that I share with you, it looks the same. Okay? It looks exactly the same. And we only have to lower the black level to 46. So the SDR HDR trick that I share with you is black level 41. So screen brightness 41 for the majority of the games. But for some games, we only need to limit one time. So we use 46. It looks exactly the same as the native HDR, okay? But not exactly the same. If you really look for the highlights, maybe the native HDR, maybe not for sure, we should see some extra details there, okay? Because HDR is supposed to give you some additional fine details on bright objects. But in terms of the contrast and the visibility near black and the peak brightness that you're getting on the objects, it's the same, okay? So I never say, oh, this is accurate, but if I use this game as an example, or Elden Ring, okay? I shared on a video with you before, showing you Elden Ring native HDR in comparison with the SDR HDR trick, and they look the same, okay? In terms of near black, the brightness of the midtones and the contrast of the image, it looks exactly the same. The only differences that you can see is the details, the fine details that you get with the native HDR, for example, when you look at the Earth tree, okay? So what I'm saying is, when I compare the tricks and the recommendations that I've been giving you with a good HDR implementation, I see that the SDR HDR trick and some of the settings that I've shared with you, it looks the same as a game that has good HDR. So when I show you a game that doesn't have a good HDR, like Uncharted 4, The Lost Legacy, The Last of Us, when I show you that game and I tell you, man, this HDR is crap, okay? It has a minimum black level raise that is very difficult to see. Most people are not going to be able to tell that difference, that it has a small black level raise. So you have to lower fine-tune dark areas to -5. But the problem is that that game has been slapped into a 10,000 nits HDR container, but most of the highlights are way below that, okay? And the APL, the average picture level that you're going to get, is lower than it should be, because it has been conservatively graded inside that 10,000 nits container. So when I tell you I recommend the SDR HDR trick better than the native HDR, trust me, bro. Try it yourself. Okay? If you try the native HDR of that game and you are like, I want to respect the creator's intent and I think this is the best option, use it. Good for you. Use it. Okay? It's your display, your gaming experience. But trust me, man, I've been day and night for over 2,000 hours that I have used on this TV. Day and night trying to get the best picture quality possible, okay? Trust me, I'm telling you, this SDR HDR trick is a game changer, because we have most of the games that we have on HDR are messed up, and a lot of games don't support the HDR, and they do not support auto HDR from Windows 11. That's why I've again and again trying to share this SDR HDR trick, because I believe it's just fantastic. I mean, if you are deciding which TV should you get, the SDR HDR trick on the LG OLEDs should put the LG OLEDs on top of any other TV, because even if you have a more capable display, how many games are you going to enjoy with great HDR if you have a different display? Not many, because the games are messed up. So if you cannot fix the HDR games, you're just not going to enjoy your fantastic display. Okay? That's why I've been insisting again and again in sharing all these tricks to fix the games. So there you go. If you care about HDR accuracy for games, you have to use HDIG. If you have one of these LG OLEDs, HDIG means no tone mapping on the TV. The TV is gonna follow the EOTF and hard clip at its maximum peak brightness, and you have to hope that the game has a good HDR and that the game supports the system level calibration, or the game has sliders. Otherwise, you're screwed. It's that simple. If you have to use dynamic tone mapping because the HDR looks too dark, there's no accuracy. Okay? If you have to do other tweakings, lower fine-tune dark areas, lower black level, this and that, what creator's intent are you talking about? They messed it up. Okay? They messed it up. And unfortunately, that is more common. So that's just what we have today. Most of the games are messed up with HDR. So if you care about HDR accuracy, you're screwed. I'm sorry. There's not many games where you can enjoy that. And if you want to enjoy the accuracy of the broken HDR, I don't think you're going to get a good experience. Okay? It is what it is. So, yeah, share with me, what are the games that you think they have good HDR, and what platform have you played those games? And give me your opinion about this. If you disagree with me, that's fine. You're allowed to disagree. But this is my take. Okay, and this is why I've been giving you all these tricks and tweaks, because you purchased a 4K 120 hertz HDR display and you want to experience that. You do not want to play on SDR, okay? You're just not using the display to its maximum potential. HDR looks better all the time. No way SDR looks even close to HDR. So that's another thing. A lot of people, they don't know how to do all these tweakings, and they don't want to learn they are like, oh, HDR is just not worth it, and I'm just gonna play on SDR. You're doing a disservice to yourself. Just use the SDR HDR trick then. It's better. I much rather recommend you to set and forget the SDR HDR trick, because at least you're going to get a consistent picture quality on every single game. And the only thing you need to change sometimes is that black level. For most games, it's going to be 41. For some games, it's going to be 46. So just have that black level in 41. If you see you're crushing blacks, just raise it to 46. That's the only thing you would need to change. But I much rather recommend you to use that setting for everything. If you don't want to learn, if you don't want to have to, watch a video for every single game, just use that and call it a day. Okay? And I think that's a phenomenal thing to have with these TVs. You can get an LG OLED, the SDR HDR trick on the PC, and you're done. You can play every single game. They are going to look consistent. They're going to look the same. You're going to get the same experience, which is a great experience. It's not going to be better than a good native HDR game, but I dare you to try to find the differences. Sometimes it's almost impossible to see the difference. But again, you can definitely see the difference. You see an Elden Ring, that R3 looks different. Some specular highlights, you might see more quality with a native HDR. But when you're getting the contrast of the image, when you're getting the peak brightness you're supposed to get, that's most of what you want to get from the HDR. Okay? So, and of course, the wider color gamut, which you get with the trick anyway. You get very saturated colors that look very nice. So, yeah. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.